to the Cello Doll YouTube channel. For today's vlog, Chelly and I are going to be teaching you the universal fingering pattern for all advanced cello scales. Not only does this fingering cover all keys, but you can also use them regardless if you're playing a major or one of the minor types of scales. So, with a couple of rules that I am going to outline in this video, you will be able to play any scale in any key, and it is a fabulous tool for memorizing your scales very easily. So before we get to that special formula for advanced scales, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up, a like, and subscribe to the Cello Doll YouTube channel to show your support. If you would like to go above and beyond, Chelly and I are on Patreon, where you can get exclusive content that you won't find anywhere else. Patreon is a really fun place where Chelly and I interact with you dolls by giving you behind-the-scenes content, early access to music videos, MP3s, and more. So check that out using the link in the video description. So, for this universal fingering pattern, I am going to outline a couple rules that will give you the steps needed to adapt this fingering for any scale. When I learned this method, it made memorizing my scales so much easier because all I had to do was know what key I was in for my starting pitch, remember the key signature, and then the fingering pattern came quite naturally. So, if you've been having some difficulty in memorizing your scales and you have been going into 3 and 4 octave scales, this is the perfect video for you. So the first set of rules we are going to talk about apply to the first 2 octaves of your scale. Rule number 1 is you are going to avoid any open strings. The second rule is that you are going to use all 4 fingers of your left hand before you shift and move on to your next hand shape. So, using this method, I am going to demonstrate it on the first 2 octaves of your D major scale. Now remember, I am going to use no open strings, and I'm going to use up all 4 of my fingers before I move on to the next note. And I'm going to start warming up that extension for our first 3 notes of D. Open up for E. The F sharp's right there. But now we have to go to a G. And we can't use the open string. That's our first rule. So we're going to shift up to 1. After you're done with 4th finger, you're always going to go to 1 and start over your hand shape. So then we have G, A, B. Now I need to go to my pointer. The pinky's done. To C sharp. And we have our first octave. So now to go on to the second octave, I continue this rule. So my next finger is the pinky on E. I need to shift to F sharp, G, A to avoid that open string. And then we finish up top, B, C sharp, and D. And we have our 2 octaves. So if you get to the top of your second octave and you're ending on 1, 2, any finger that isn't your pinky, that's a sign that something happened on the way up, and it's very likely that a finger was skipped. So as you noticed, as I was demonstrating this for you, I talked through the pitches slowly, identified what positions I was going to. This is very helpful for you to do out loud in your practice room. So by vocalizing your note names and what position you are in, you are more likely to know what your pinky note is and where you gotta go to next. Another little tip that might help is knowing that we are playing 3 notes each time before we move on. Now I bring up this rule of 3s because there's one key that will have a few exceptions to our rules. And that is the key of C, whether you're in C major or any of the C minor scales. So right away, we are going to break our rule of no open strings because the key of C has to start with an open C string, of course. Because we have to count that open string as one note, your fingering for any C scale is going to skip the pinky for the first hand shape only. Then the pattern stays the same. Again, we are having 3 notes per hand shape, and the open string has to count for one of those notes. So now I'll show you how this works out by playing a C major scale. We have to start with the open string. And since we have our 3 notes, I'm not going to use the pinky here. Instead, I'm going to shift to 1 for F. And now all of the rules apply from this point onward. We have our first octave. And we end with our 4th finger at the top of our 2nd octave. All right, my dolls, so now we are going to go on to our 3rd and 4th octave, which is going to bring us into one of my favorite parts of the cello, thumb position territory. And as a result of that, we have to now adopt a new set of rules. For these top octaves, you are going to be playing the following fingering pattern. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. If you say it in a way that has a little jingle vibe to it, helps you to remember it, I think. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So that is the fingering that is going to get you sailing up the cello's fingerboard and to the top of your 4th octave. So one of the reasons I picked D major for you dolls is it's one of the few keys that has a tiny exception for your first hand shape. So we have ended our 2nd octave on D with 4th finger, and now we're going to start these new rules. 1, 2 for the notes E and F sharp. However, if I were to play these notes comfortably, well, I wouldn't go 1, 2 for E, F sharp, I'll tell you that. I would do 1, 3. So for your first pair of fingers, it's going to be a 1, 2 or a 1, 3, depending on what's most comfortable for you. So then once you get past that first pair, then you for sure are going to have 1, 2s and 1, 2, 3s. So now we are on our 3rd and 4th octaves and our new set of rules. Starting on our 4th finger, I'm going to do 1, 2 or 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 for the top. And we are officially in thumb position. And now the top of our 3rd octave as well. And now for the 4th octave, it's like rinse and repeat. You just do the same fingering pattern. And there you have it. Our universal fingering got us all the way to the top of D major. And of course, with any scale, the way you go up, you come back the way you came. So that's also very important, making sure you do this fingering in reverse for the descent of the scale. As you start getting higher up in your scales and going into those 3rd and 4th octaves, again, having a consistent fingering pattern is going to be so crucial for the memorization of your scales. Now, if you have any questions about your major and minor scales or any of the concepts discussed in this video, be sure to leave them in the comments below, and Shelly and I will get back to you as soon as we can. Again, please like this video and subscribe. It is such a helpful way to get my channel to more cellists who might need this resource. Again, thank you all so much for watching this video. I am the Cello Doll, and you can find me here on YouTube, as well as Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Also, be sure to check out the video description for even more Cello Doll goodies, including where you can stream some of my original music and cello cover arrangements. As always, happy practicing, my dolls, and Chelly and I know you're going to rock it out the next time you practice those scales. Bye, my dolls.